Most people think war kills through bullets. It doesn't. The real killer is panic. Think about it. Soldiers who have trained for years, people who are physically strong, mentally sharp in normal life, they freeze. They make the wrong call. They run in the wrong direction. Not because they weren't prepared physically, but because their mind gave up before their body did. So here's a question worth sitting with right now. If everything around you collapsed tomorrow, the noise, the chaos, the uncertainty, people running, people screaming, no clear answers, would you stay calm enough to think? Or would you lose control before you even had a chance to act? That question is exactly what this video is about. This is not a military training video. This is not about weapons or tactics. This is about the one thing that decides whether a person survives a crisis or doesn't: the mind. We're going to break down what war actually does to your brain, why people panic, why that panic spreads, and most importantly, the exact mental rules that keep people alive when everything falls apart. Stay with this. What comes next might genuinely change how you think about fear. Let's start at the beginning. The moment danger appears, your brain doesn't ask questions. It doesn't wait for instructions. It fires immediately. A tiny part of your brain called the amygdala, think of it as your internal alarm system, detects the threat and sends one signal to your whole body: survive. Within seconds, stress hormones flood your system. Adrenaline spikes. Your heart rate jumps. Your muscles tighten. Your breathing gets shallow. Your body is doing exactly what it was built to do over thousands of years of evolution. It's preparing you to deal with danger fast. But here's where it gets interesting. At the same time your body is powering up, something else is shutting down. The part of your brain responsible for logic, planning, and rational thinking basically goes quiet. It doesn't disappear completely, but it gets pushed to the back. Your brain in that moment doesn't care about smart decisions. It only cares about fast ones. This is why people in war situations do things that make no sense later. They run into dangerous areas. They forget simple information they've known for years. They make choices that feel right in the moment, but are completely irrational from the outside. Almost no one realizes this is happening to them while it's happening. There's also a second hormone that kicks in a little slower: cortisol. If adrenaline is the spark, cortisol is the long-burning fire. It keeps your body in stress mode for hours, sometimes days. And the longer you stay in that state, the harder it becomes to think clearly, sleep properly, or make good decisions.
So war doesn't just threaten your body. It quietly attacks your ability to think. And that's actually the more dangerous problem. Now here's something most people have heard of but never fully understood. When your brain detects danger, it picks one of three responses: fight, flight, or freeze. You've probably heard these words before, but in a real crisis, understanding what they actually do to you and which one is truly the most dangerous could change everything. Let's go through each one. Fight is the aggressive response. Your brain decides the threat can be handled directly, so it pushes all energy toward confrontation. In a physical sense, this makes sense, but in a war or crisis situation, fight mode can turn into reckless aggression. People charge into situations without thinking. They make loud decisions that draw more danger. They act out of anger rather than strategy. Fight mode feels powerful, but unchecked, it's destructive. Flight is the escape response. Your brain decides the situation is too dangerous and pushes you to run. Again, in the right moment, this is completely correct. Getting away from danger is often exactly the right call. But flight mode becomes dangerous when people run without a direction, without a plan, or when they follow whoever is running near them without knowing where that person is actually going. This is the mistake that costs lives. Running blindly is sometimes worse than standing still. But the third response is the one that worries psychologists the most: freeze. When your brain can't choose between fight and flight, it sometimes does neither. It locks up, like a computer trying to run too many programs at once and just stopping. You've seen this in animals, a deer in headlights, but it happens to humans too, more than people want to admit. In freeze mode, a person just stands there. They can't speak clearly. They can't move with purpose. They stare. They wait. And in a real crisis, those few seconds or minutes of paralysis can be fatal. The terrifying part about freeze is that it doesn't feel like fear from the inside. It sometimes feels like calm, like your brain is telling you everything is fine while your body refuses to move. Now here's something worth thinking about. None of these three responses are wrong by themselves. In the right moment, each one can save your life. The problem is when your brain chooses the wrong one for the wrong situation. And without mental training, your brain will almost always choose based on pure emotion, not logic. That's exactly why what comes next matters so much. Why people panic and why it spreads. Let's talk about something that almost no survival guide ever covers properly. Panic is contagious, not in a metaphorical way, literally scientifically contagious. Psychologists call it emotional contagion. When you see someone near you in extreme fear, your brain automatically starts mirroring that emotion. It's an old survival mechanism. If the person next to you is terrified, maybe you should be too. Maybe they see something you don't. So fear jumps from person to person like a signal passing through a crowd. One person screams, 2 people start running, 20 people see those 2 running and start running. Within seconds, 100 people are moving in a direction nobody chose consciously. Nobody decided to panic. Panic decided for them. This is crowd psychology in its rawest form. And the dangerous part isn't just the movement, it's the thinking, or rather, the loss of it. When people move in crowds driven by fear, individual decision-making collapses almost completely. People follow whoever seems most confident, even if that person has no idea what they're doing. People head toward noise thinking it's help, when it might be the source of the danger. People abandon places of safety because others are leaving. Here's the brutal truth about crowd panic. The crowd is not a plan. The crowd is just fear moving together. And almost no one in that crowd is thinking, they're feeling. And in a crisis, feelings without thought are extremely dangerous. So what do you do? How do you protect your own mind from being pulled into that wave of panic? That's exactly what the next section is about. Rule 1. Control your mind before anything else. Rule number 1 sounds simple, and that's exactly why people ignore it. Before you do anything else in a crisis, control your own mind first. Not the situation, not the people around you, not the next 5 decisions, just your own mind, right now, in this moment. The most reliable way to do this, the method used by soldiers, surgeons, pilots, and emergency responders, is breathing. Not deep, slow, relaxing breathing like a meditation app, controlled breathing, deliberate breathing. There's a technique called box breathing. You breathe in for 4 counts, hold for 4, breathe out for 4, hold again for 4. That's it. 1 or 2 cycles of this sends a direct signal to your nervous system. It tells your brain the immediate danger has not killed you yet. It creates just enough space between the emotion and the response. That space is everything. Because in a crisis, the difference between a fatal decision and a survivable one often fits inside 3 seconds. 3 seconds of not reacting automatically. 3 seconds of pausing before acting. Pause before reacting is not a soft principle. It is a tactical one. Almost no one does this naturally. The brain wants to act immediately. It feels irresponsible to pause when everything is screaming at you to move. But the people who survive extreme situations consistently describe the same thing. A moment where they stopped, where they didn't react, where they looked before they moved. Your thoughts will feel like a storm in a crisis, loud, fast, overlapping, contradictory. The goal isn't to stop the storm. The goal is to slow down just enough that you're steering through it, rather than being thrown around by it. One breath, one pause, one conscious decision at a time. That's rule 1, and everything else builds on it. Rule 2. Think simple, not smart. Here's where most people fail.
They try to think too much. When a crisis hits, intelligent people are sometimes at a disadvantage because their brain has more paths to consider, more variables to weigh, more possible outcomes to calculate. And in a situation that requires fast, clear action, that mental overload becomes paralysis dressed up as thinking. Your brain in extreme stress has a reduced processing capacity. This is not a weakness, it's biology. The parts of your brain handling survival don't have bandwidth for complex analysis. They need simple inputs and simple outputs. So the rule is this: when things fall apart, shrink your thinking down. Don't ask yourself, what is the best possible decision I could make right now, accounting for all variables? Ask yourself, what is the next single step I can take right now? Not the plan for the whole day, not the plan for the next hour, the next step. One thing. Move to that wall, get to that door, find water, stay low. One thing. Simple decisions executed quickly almost always outperform complex decisions executed slowly in a crisis. Military training hammers this concept for a reason. You don't give a soldier under fire a strategic briefing. You give them a clear, immediate instruction. Be your own clear, immediate instruction. There's also something worth knowing about decision fatigue. Every decision you make, even small ones, uses mental energy. In a prolonged crisis, your mental energy is a limited resource. People who burn it on unnecessary choices early run out of it when they need it most. So protect your mental energy by keeping your thinking small and direct. This is the mistake that costs lives, not lack of intelligence, overthinking when the situation demands action. Rule 3. Awareness is survival. Pay attention to this one. Most people miss it completely. In a crisis, most people turn inward. Their focus collapses into their own fear, their own thoughts, their own body. And while that's happening, the actual information they need to survive is right there around them, completely ignored. Awareness is not the same as alertness. Alertness is being jumpy and reactive. Awareness is calm, steady observation of what's actually happening around you. The people who navigate dangerous situations well share one visible characteristic. They look around more than they look inward. They notice exits. They notice which direction the noise is coming from. They notice which people around them are calm and which ones are spiraling. They notice patterns. A crowd that was moving left suddenly changed direction. The sound that was distant is now closer. The person near them is about to make a decision that could affect them too. This information is available to anyone, but only someone with controlled awareness can actually receive it. Here's a practical way to think about it. When fear is rising, deliberately shift your attention outward. Name 5 things you can physically see. This is not a relaxation trick. This is a tactical redirect. You're pulling your focus from the internal noise back to the external reality where the actual information is. Your environment is always telling you something. The direction of smoke tells you where fire is. The behavior of people far ahead tells you what they've already seen. The quietness of a particular area might mean safety, or it might mean something else entirely. Almost no one is listening to their environment when fear takes over. The ones who listen are the ones who find the exit nobody else noticed. Rule 4. Don't follow the crowd blindly. This rule is uncomfortable because it goes against instinct. When you're afraid and you see a large group of people moving with apparent purpose, every part of your brain says follow them. They know something you don't. There's safety in numbers. Don't be alone. Sometimes that instinct is right. But here's the thing almost no one considers in that moment. The person at the front of that crowd, the one everyone is following, they are also just following someone else. Or they're just running. They don't have a map. They don't have information. They just started moving first and everyone assumed that meant they knew something. Herd mentality in a crisis is not a strategy. It's a feeling pretending to be a strategy. There are moments where following the group is the correct call. When trained personnel, emergency responders, or clearly informed people are leading in an organized way,
Following makes complete sense. That's not herd mentality. That's trust placed correctly. But when a crowd is just moving based on fear and noise, following it blindly means giving your survival over to chance. The question to ask yourself in that moment is a simple one. Does this crowd have a direction, or does it just have speed? Speed without direction in a crisis can take you directly into the danger rather than away from it. It has happened. It happens consistently in historical records of panicked crowds. Make at least one independent observation before you follow any group. One look, 1 second, one conscious choice. That small act of independent thinking is sometimes the difference. Now, we need to talk about the enemy that nobody talks about. Not the external threat, the internal one. At a certain point in prolonged crisis, a different kind of danger sets in. It's not panic, it's the opposite of panic. It's quiet, it's still, and it's far more dangerous than anything that comes from outside. It's the moment a person decides, somewhere deep in their mind, that there is no point. Psychologists who have studied survivors of war, imprisonment, and extreme survival situations consistently find the same thing. Physical strength is not the deciding factor in who makes it through. Mental surrender is. The people who give up mentally, even while their body is still functioning, often stop taking the small actions that could save them. They stop looking for options. They stop trying. This isn't weakness. It's what prolonged stress and hopelessness do to the human brain when there is no counter-strategy in place. Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist who survived a Nazi concentration camp, wrote about this in detail. He observed that the people who maintained a sense of meaning, even a small one, even a very simple one, were more likely to endure than those who lost it entirely. It wasn't optimism, it wasn't denial. It was a thread of purpose that the mind could hold on to. Even in the worst situations, that thread exists. The next small action, the person next to you who needs help, the simple goal of making it to tomorrow. Mental collapse is the hidden enemy, and like all enemies, it's most dangerous when you don't see it coming. Watch for it, in yourself, in the people around you.
Rule 5. Build mental resilience. Resilience is not toughness. That's an important distinction. Toughness implies not feeling things, pretending the fear isn't there, pushing emotions down and performing strength. That approach breaks. It always breaks eventually because it's built on suppression. Resilience is different. Resilience is feeling the fear fully and continuing to function anyway. It's not the absence of difficulty, it's the ability to keep moving through it. There are 3 principles that build this kind of mental resilience in crisis. The first is accepting uncertainty. Most mental suffering in dangerous situations comes not from the danger itself, but from the desperate need to know what comes next. The mind keeps asking questions it can't answer, and the inability to answer them creates a spiral. Accepting that you cannot control or predict the full situation removes that spiral. It frees up mental energy for what you actually can control. The second is emotional stability, not emotional flatness, stability, meaning you allow emotions to pass through you without being completely controlled by them. Fear comes, you notice it, you breathe, you continue. Grief comes, you acknowledge it, you don't bury it or drown in it, you move. The third is the most practical. Focus only on the next step, not the end of the crisis, not what comes after, not what you've already lost, just the next step. What can I do right now with what I have right now? That single focus is what keeps the mind from collapsing under the weight of everything it can't control. These 3 things together, accepting uncertainty, staying emotionally stable, focusing forward, are not personality traits some people are born with. They are skills. They can be practiced, they can be built, and the time to start building them is before you need them. Everything we've talked about comes down to one fundamental shift, from victim to survivor.
Those two words sound simple, but they represent two completely different relationships with reality. A victim mindset in a crisis asks, why is this happening to me? It looks backward. It focuses on what has been lost, what is unfair, what cannot be changed. And while those feelings are completely human and valid, they consume mental energy without producing any useful output. A survivor mindset asks one question: what do I do next? That's it. Not, will I make it? Not, is this fair? Not, what if I fail? Just, what do I do next? This shift doesn't require you to feel brave. It doesn't require you to feel ready. It doesn't require you to feel anything in particular. It only requires one decision: the decision to keep thinking forward instead of standing still in the weight of what's happening. Survivors of extreme situations describe this mindset not as confidence, they describe it as stubbornness, a quiet, firm refusal to stop looking for options, an attitude that says, I will handle this, not I am not afraid, not I know exactly what to do, just I will handle this. Those 4 words are more powerful than any tactic or technique, because they keep the mind moving, and a moving mind finds solutions that a frozen one never will. So let's end with the truth this whole video has been building toward. War doesn't decide who survives. The mind does. Bullets are fast, chaos is loud, fear is immediate, but none of those things have ever been as powerful as a human mind that refuses to stop thinking clearly. The rules are simple. Control your breathing before you control anything else. Think in small steps, not big pictures. Stay aware of your environment. Don't follow fear. Don't surrender internally. Build resilience before you need it. None of this is guaranteed. Nothing in life is. But the person who walks into uncertainty with a trained mind and a survivor's attitude is not the same as the person who walks in without one. You now know the difference. The only question left is what you do with it.